This is the Bottom Line Sports Show with Gerald Brown and Rick Mahorn.
Imagine you trade a Chet Holmgren for a Giannis Antetokounmpo.
These guys are athletic as you know what, and you go like, oh my gosh, where's the fundamentals? Where's the pass first mentality? That's not in the league anymore.
And now here's your host, Gerald Brown and Rick Mahorn.
What's up? 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 We're back. We're back. We're back. Get back. Gerald Brown, always a pleasure to be back on the show. And there he is, fresh off the road trip for the Detroit basketball, the Pistons. Mr. Rick Mahorn, NBA champion Rick Mahorn. He got his little hair dye in his hair, so now he's straight. Got his...
Hey, listen. Let everybody know out there, Pistons are for real. That's all I need to say.
Well, first of all, make sure you subscribe to the show, subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of content, so much that's happening. Big shout out to all the people that's constantly asking, and you know what, really staying in contact with us. But Rick, let's get right into this, man. And
well, jump on in.
You know, I was really surprised about this that's happened today, and these NBA trades. NBA trades, and Rick, first and foremost, the one, let's start with it, with the team you're closest to, the Detroit Pistons. They're turning around, bringing Kevin Huerter, and now you add Kevin Huerter. You got rid of Jaden Ivey, which obviously a young player that you drafted. He goes to Chicago. You add Kevin Huerter to this team that honestly has been playing some unbelievable basketball. And Rick, I think they got better. Your thoughts on it?
You know what? Of course they got better. I mean, you couldn't get worse because you have Cade Cunningham, who is being mentioned in the MVP, but also an All-Star, and Duren. He's Jalen Duren's an All-Star this year as well. So, I mean, you try to tweak things if you can, if this trade went through, because I'm not allowed to talk about it until everything gets finalized. But as I look at it, it's a good addition. But you know, we had a bunch of good. This team is very deep, you know, and the fact is, if you're trying to crack the rotation, well, you better learn how to play defense first and foremost, because JB Bickerstaff has done an outstanding job of turning this around, and Trajan Langdon has done a good job of supplying the pieces and drafting the right, you know, the different pieces that needed to be to fill those holes where you have some weaknesses at. But right now, I mean, I'm excited with just what the team has now, and with a few additions that can come follow through if this went through. And you know, all these trades are still, until they really finalize everything, it's still just speculation.
Yeah, when you look at these trades, and I ask you this about these trades, you know, again, the way everything's shaping out, we still got trades happening, possibility. It's a lot of movement. And honestly, if I'm just going to keep it real.
Keep it real, Gerald. Keep it real.
Shout out to Brad, Cornbread. We got to get Brad on the show. Keep it real.
Just talked to him yesterday. I always check in with the old school.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We got to get him on there. But the thing is, it just seems like you took one bad contract, you take on my bad contract I'll take your bad contract. I'll ask you plain and simple. Is the East now, the way it's constructed, and obviously if these trades go through, I don't want you talking about anything with the Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the East now, is it safe to say the East is now the Pistons, Boston Celtics, who end up getting Nikola Vucevic, a big that's in there, and the New York Knicks? Would you look at the East and say that's the 1, 2, 3 right now?
Well, no, right now it's like that now. Everybody's jockeying for the second place. You know, you don't know if Boston will have it. New York has been playing well. And then this trade with, you know, the trade that if it finalizes that Harden goes to Cleveland, that just puts, you know, another team out there. You say, man, they got a three-headed monster. they can go with Mitchell, or they can go with Harden, or they can even go with Mobley. And those guys, once they find some continuity, and if this trade is done, they would be one of those teams you say, they got a three-headed monster. We can see what they got, because then it's all about matchups, and it's a 7-game series, and you look at it and you go like, man, can you survive 7 games? But how deep will your bench go if one of those guys get hurt? That's what it's all about. It's about having health going down the stretch. And so far, New York, since that meeting, team only meeting, they won us 6 in a row. And that's good. Maybe, hopefully, it sustains that. But we meet with them this week, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the biggest thing is I want to get into this whole thing with the Cavs trade, and obviously James Harden, and just looking at the East. Even prior to this trade, I really now believe that the Knicks are going to have to do something. Especially if you look at the Pistons. I don't know how much more they're going to do. But the Pistons are just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Before this trade, just getting stronger. I've been very impressed with the road trip that they had. Played very good basketball. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, why I'm not buying into this, is because if you're looking at this, their help is needed in that front court. That front court is where their need is essential for them. They didn't do anything right now. And look, James Harden had his struggles in the playoffs.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. You got a guy like Donovan Mitchell, and I'm looking at Cleveland, and you say, he can do multiple things. He can play multiple positions. And you look at Harden, who sometimes I've seen Harden's not a bad defender. And then you got Mobley, who's really stretched his game out as far as being out there on the perimeter, and making sure that you can pull some. Now, when you look as you prepare your defense, you got to worry about 3 dudes, and you got Jared Allen out there, and whoever they play at the small forward. You go like, these guys got to beat us. So where do you think a lot of teams look at? You take away the strength and see what other teams can do. I look at teams like the other night we played the Denver Nuggets, and you take you get the Joker out of it, then you got Jamal Murray, and then you say, okay, but your defense is, if that's your calling card, you don't really worry about a lot of that. But when it comes in a 7-game series, Gerald, that's when you really start concentrating, because you want them to go to the 5th option instead of the 3rd option.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think the biggest thing is now when I look at them, like I said before, it probably would be a soapbox moment for me. So obviously the big trade that happened on Wednesday as we record, Anthony Davis now going to the Washington Wizards. And I'm really, really stuck and saying, what are the Washington Wizards doing with these trades? And what effect will it have long term? Because, Rick, I look at this, all it's saying is, look, Anthony Davis wants to get paid. I'm not mad at him. He wants another contract, a max contract deal, a place that the bar is so low, they're going to give it to him, and that being Washington. Same
Are you
thing
sure?
Hey.
I mean, if your hands are tied and you handcuffed, for sure. I mean, if you're the general manager looking to try you look at the governors and you say, okay, well, how could it, and it just depends if everybody's on the same page. In every business, everybody's not on the same page from the top to the bottom. But how do you make everything work as a family? You have the top of the parents, and then you have the kids, but then you have the siblings who dictate, what's going to happen going down the line. But I look at it, okay, all the teams have to spend their salary cap money. That is what we look at, and you say, okay, do you want to win now, or do you want to accumulate assets? And when you look at it, Dallas ain't trying to. They want to win. They have Cooper Flag. They have some pieces, but they're trying to build around Cooper Flag with some younger guys, and they're trying to take a page out of Oklahoma City, for example, and not having Nico Harrison, and trying to rebuild that franchise to make themselves prevalent again. So, since the Dirk Nowitzki's and also the Mark Aguirre's. But you look at them and say, who won out of this trade? I think Dallas did because they got multiple assets like rookies, and they can do some things. They can be a facilitator now. Gerald, there's so many things that you look at and say that is the governors on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is when I look at this trade, let's look at it from from Washington's standpoint. Look, it don't make any sense. I mean, I understand that, look, they have had a challenge trying to really be able to do something to really get the fans.
What are they trying to do?
Look,
what really,
St.
realistically,
and
what
Bill,
are they trying to do? They had Porzingis, and all right, let's trade. I mean, what are they trying to do? Are they just a waste what is a waste station for okay, we're gonna take CJ McCollum, and then we're gonna trade. See, this is what I'm looking at now. You got Trae Young, and it's like you got Trae Young, you got Anthony Davis, and both of them are hurt.
What let's be clear. Davis, you trying to protect that draft pick in terms of why you're not playing Trae Young right now. Anthony Davis, look, that's why I said, when I look at the Wizards, their organization, first of all, is always constant turnover. In tanking, they decided this year and said, you know what? Listen, last year we couldn't win with all these young guys. They decided to say, hey, look, you know what? Bring in some veterans. You brought in CJ McCollum. You bring in Chris Middleton. It still hasn't changed the trajectory of this team. And their organization has been something that's just been marred and just futility. They have been an organization that just can't get right. They just
can't get right, huh? You know that guy. Right. You know that guy can't get right, huh?
Yeah.
Here's the thing: when you look at, I look at sports. Right now you got the Super Bowl, but not everybody's interested in it because, okay, we got the Patriots, 6-time champions, and we got Seattle, a one-time champion, and you go, okay, it's like, there ain't gonna be a lot of people there. The ticket prices are going down. It's all about the bottom line, your margin. When you look at it. Some people are in it for the business part of sharing revenue. The lower the revenue, the more money you can make. It just depends on how you want your team structured. Do you want to win? Not every team you look at is like, oh, I want to win. I want to win an NBA championship. I want to, you look at football. or you look at baseball. I want to be the best team. But not everybody. You can have some of the best players, but not all of them can mesh, and the chemistry has to be right, Gerald.
Well, that's why I look at them. Look, they're going to sell it to their fan base. People are going to be
so what?
They're going to sell their fan base. Look, we're not tanking anymore. We're not concerned about that. We got Anthony Davis. We got Trae Young.
Season over. Season over.
Yeah, but they sell it next year. Buy your ticket.
Yeah, but of course. I mean, you got to have a gimmick to do something to get people. You can put fannies in the seats.
And I'm not mad at them at that. But that is just all the whole thing. And it really just sets up, Rick, for once again, it's the definition of insanity to do something over and over. Because guess what? Those guys, if you look at it, Anthony Davis is going to probably play his normal, 45 to 55 games.
Mm-hmm.
Play 60 games. That would be phenomenal. But he'd play his 45 to 55 games and then turn around. They're going to extend both him and Trae Young. And now you're going to have these massive contracts.
But they got to spend the money, Gerald. They got to spend the money. If you don't, I mean, you're obligated to have a certain amount of money on your cap space, or you go over the first apron or the second apron, whichever you want. Sometimes when you look at it, do you want to go all in knowing that you can win a championship? Hell yeah, I'm gonna throw it in there. But it's also, how your fans react. You look at it and say, okay, we gotta have some semblance of winning in order for the fans. I mean, look, the Bullets, Wizards, whatever you want to call them, and I played there for 5 years. So I got started my career. They won a championship, but is it something? And they went twice to the NBA Finals with Wes Unseld, Big Elvin Hayes, that great team. And next thing you know, it's like, okay, they've been feudal ever since.
Yeah. Hey, make sure you subscribe out there. Make sure you follow along. We're going to be having a lot of dynamic things for merchandise. We're putting a lot of things together. We got a question in the chat from Jeff in the Zone 860. Hey, will the Toronto Raptors get a center? I think center position is kind of be a little difficult. You know what's so funny, Rick? On the flip side of that, point guards are so available. With all these point guards out there, it's really a valuable position. But the center, I don't know. Do you think a center will be moved? Especially, it doesn't seem that many guys that are out there and available.
What is a center now? I mean, it's all about, I look at, now they got the stretch 4, they got the stretch 5. I mean, it's not too many Jalen Durans out there. It's not too many, the Joker, it's not too many of those guys out there because the game has changed totally. It's open court. I mean, you look at Rudy Gobert out there in Minnesota, and you go, okay, when him and Cat were together, Karl Anthony Towns had to play the 4. So it's all about position, and now Karl Anthony Towns plays the center. So it's not necessarily anybody you're looking for a big. You're looking for a big that's very mobile, that can shoot the 3. Now you're looking at a guy that can also post up. So, I mean, the game, is it a post-up game anymore? A lot of things you look at, you got to go, okay, I got to get a basketball player, a guy that can shoot outside, play inside and outside.
Yeah. And you mentioned about we had, and appreciate the question. Make sure you hit us up in the chat. Jeff mentioned about the Toronto Raptors. They were involved with the Clippers, the Brooklyn Nets, to agree on a multi-team trade in which the Clippers sending the disgruntled, I wouldn't say disgruntled, but Chris Paul to the Toronto Raptors and Ochai Agbaji, a 2032 Raptors second rounder, and cash as he went to the Nets and stuff. The Raptors will not require Chris Paul to report to the team and could discuss still moving him. You look at Chris Paul and I believe also Mike Conley. As Mike Conley, who was in the trade from Minnesota, went to Chicago, he was involved in a trade from the Chicago Bulls to the Charlotte Hornets, in which the Bulls traded Kobe White along with Conley Jr. to the Charlotte Hornets for Colin Sexton, Ousmane Dieng, and 3 second-round picks. So you look at a guy like Mike Conley's kind of in that same boat with Chris Paul, where guys that if they can't trade them, those will be guys heavily available on the buyout market, and look for one of those guys to potentially land in Houston, who is desperately in need of a backup point guard. Or
not only Houston. There's a lot of times the point guard is the backup is having a backup as a point guard in today's NBA is very important. Look at Schroeder, who just got traded. Who did he get traded to?
He went to the Dennis Schroeder went to Cleveland.
And now see they need that kind of a facilitator, that kind of point guard that can give you some good minutes. Dennis Schroeder was here in Detroit last year, and he was great for the Pistons, and that ended up with Sacramento wanting him. But now you look at it when you look at a Mike Conley, or you look at a Chris Paul. I don't think a lot of teams are not going to go and say I want a Chris Paul, because I don't know what word they got on him where he's a bad guy. He just likes to play basketball. He likes to win. But when you look at a guy like Mike Conley, you look at him, even like D'Angelo Russell, you got point guards out there, and people are trying to, they need them just in case. So it's something, if Houston is looking for that just in case type guy, Michael Conley might be that dude. So I look at it and say, if the availability is the guys being healthy.
Yeah. And what you're speaking about this Sacramento Kings, obviously they're moving Dennis Schroeder. They're still trying to do some different things. I think Jeff also asked, does Sabonis get moved from the Kings? I don't think that they would move him unless you're able to get a big bat. But when you spoke about Schroeder going to the Cavaliers, I thought that was kind of a head scratcher because they still had Lonzo Ball there, who they've decided to move. And it was reported that Lonzo Ball would basically become a free agent after this season, after being in a space where he was with the I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. He was with the Utah Jazz, and clearly it's not a space with them. Just seems like Rick, that knee hasn't responded. Your thoughts?
Oh, I mean, when you see a guy is coming back off of that kind of a major injury, it takes a minute. It may not take this year. I mean, I'm dealing with major surgery, and it's the rehab part, but it's also the confidence in your head. A lot of times, when I'm walking, I feel like I'm a fall, but that's subject to always. I mean, I'm dealing with one with why my lip look like it look, but the fact is, it's a scary process trying to get back to get back
Get
to
back.
where you were before you got hurt. So it's it's kind of confusing, but surgery and stuff is not like it was back in the day. Now you have all this high tech stuff that you can deal with, and basically if it's not engaging with his injury, a lot of times teams go, okay, well, I got I'm in the now mode, I ain't in the wait till later mode.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. And just seeing how everything is played out for him, he's going to be a free agent. And I mean, clearly it hasn't worked out for him there. So Lonzo Ball will become a free agent. And as we talked about before, that point guard position is really, really stacked. There's plenty of point guards out there. And honestly, with the exception of maybe Houston, there's not too many teams that really need one. You look at the Sixers trading Jared McCain to the Oklahoma City Thunder for 4 picks. I think that clearly was a space where, bringing in a guy, obviously, for OKC, and listen, trying to get rid of some of these draft picks. It's been reported that SGA is going to be down with an ab strain. He's going to be sidelined through the All-Star break. So now you bring in another guy to really help that team and move them forward. But when you look at this Charlotte Hornets, and I want to sit back and say, if you had to pick some of these teams and stuff that potentially you could say if there's winners or losers thus far, who would you say are your winners and losers thus far? I like what Charlotte has done. I think that Charlotte is an up-and-coming team. Essentially, look, Anthony, what's his face? James Harden didn't want to be in, LA. You get younger. You get a point guard in, Garland that's there. If he can stay healthy, I think it really sets them up well. I like what Boston has done in getting Vucevic in there. And slowly but surely, Boston is making their way back into that equation. Who would be some of your winners?
I mean, Boston, for them to be surviving without Tatum like they're doing, and now you have Brown, Jaylen Brown, who's there's so many Jalen's and so many of the same names in this league. When you got a guy like Jaylen Brown, who's been playing outstanding, All-Star, of course, and you go, Boston was going to hurt, but it seemed like he put the backpack on his back and said, all right, we're going to do it this way. And adding Vucevic helps them stretch the floor, because there you go, a big man that can stretch the floor, but also can post up. So that's they got a big man that's a little bit more versatile, not a defensive guy, but they got Keita, who's been playing well since he's been in that starting lineup. Keita's playing that center position. You talk about just the center, blocking shots, rebounding, back in the day type throwback center. He's finishing around the basket. That's what you want. But Vucevic is like that power forward, like can stretch the floor and open up the court for Jaylen Brown. Now you got White, him, they just improved themselves. So, and I like. Do I like it? Because I don't like Boston. That just goes back to growing up.
Let that go, Rick.
But It's a good move for Boston because they get a proven veteran. A lot of times when you look at the younger teams, like you know what, you look at the younger teams, everybody's trying to take a page out of Oklahoma City. And they say, okay, well, we're going to lose and see, they were up front. We're going to lose for a few years, but then we're going to have all this draft capital where we can use and facilitate. Yeah, getting McCain helps them out, but they still have that nucleus of the team. And hopefully, they can sustain, winning some games. Because, when we talk about point guards, you go like Shea, SGA, you got Cade, but these are scoring point guards, but also facilitators.
Yeah, that's going to be good. I'm going to throw a team in there. I think Utah. Now, clearly, Utah has basically said, hey, look, they appear to be done tanking. Rick, you look at what they have done in terms of Jaren Jackson Jr. going to the Utah Jazz, and it's really so interesting and unique. In the middle of a season, a team says, you know what? We're too young. Let's go ahead and make sure that, at the end of the day, we're going to stop tanking. That's the message they sent to their fans. And when you look at this, I'll ask you, are the Jazz done tanking?
Are they tanking, Gerald, or they just don't have
Rick, all going well.
No, I'm just saying, are they tanking, or this is, they can be facilitators? Because I'm looking at marketing. You put marketing, and Jaren Jackson Jr., man, that's a big front line. But they have some pieces. Are they done? Is it tanking? I just think they just weren't good enough yet.
Yeah.
And now bringing a defensive player in there like Jaren Jackson, and you pair him up with marketing who can play outside, inside. I don't. There's still a couple of days left in this trade deadline, and you don't know what could happen if someone wants marketing that can put their team over the hump to win a championship.
Yeah, I like them. They're definitely my winners and stuff like that when I look at them thus far. And you're right, the deadline is Thursday, so I would definitely look at Utah. Look, they
tomorrow. I'm sorry.
They telling their fan base, look, we done taking. Buy your season tickets. Make those tickets next year. We done taking. Yeah. We all set and everything like that. Who is your losers? Who are your losers?
I look at Washington, of course.
Yeah.
Washington, to me, Washington is like in the middle of, would this work with Trae Young, and if the trades go through, would this work with Trae Young and Anthony Davis? I just think out of the trades, that one was like, okay. It was like, okay, you're not giving hope to your fan base.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on that, and I'm going to say Washington, because clearly we know that, look, the agents and the players know that, hey, Washington's desperate. The bar is so low. They got to get some people in there, name recognizable guys, and be able to try to sell that fan base. So obviously this is a financial move for them. I'm going to say also Dallas. I'm kind of surprised that they pulled the plug thus far, this early, especially when Kyrie's coming back. And clearly now with the shift and the change of this team, obviously you're just saying we're going to build this thing around
Cooper Flag. Yeah, but Gerald, you talk about, okay, when you look at it's like when I got traded to Detroit, you got to find out the identity. Whose team is it? Is it going to be, you look at Luka. That was Luka's team, right? When he was in Dallas, and you tried to build around him, but then you traded him to the Lakers. You look at it now. He's there with LeBron, and LeBron, with LeBron on the way out, Luka is the guy. Who you going to build around when you're looking at Dallas? I mean, yeah, Kyrie's been in Cleveland. Kyrie's been in Brooklyn. And don't get me wrong, Kyrie's a bad boy. When he's healthy, he's a bad man. He makes that ball dance. But when it's said and done, what is his winning What are we hanging our hats on him? No, they're hanging their hats for Cooper Flag. But the fact is, dude, they just wanted draft capital. They got it. For a guy like you explained earlier in the show that it may give you 40 or 50 games, and the rest is up to him. But hey, if they letting them do it, I ain't mad at these guys.
No, I'm not mad, and I'm tell you this: I don't want to hear no Wizards complaining, fans complaining. I don't want to see anybody making fun about Anthony Davis because his MO. He's going to get hurt. He's going to miss a ton.
Well, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. Everybody gets, and you're gonna get bumps and bruises. It just depends on if you want to play through that. This is not where you're gonna lose your job. Back we talking, but when I was back in the day, when I was in the league, I was always afraid. I played with a broken hand, and I was afraid to lose my job because it was, I'm a guy that I'm not even on a guaranteed contract, but everything has changed, Gerald. I mean, you got, guys taking, and I ain't mad. Listen, I ain't mad at these dudes. If they're going to let me rest, I'm going to rest.
Yeah, they're going to rest, and they're going to make sure that. One of the things, I got another team that I'm going to say they're my losers. And even though they haven't even made a trade yet, and that being the Milwaukee Bucks. Look, Rick, I get it, the way things have played out with them and just how all this stuff is going on, the rumors circulating around Giannis. They have been reportedly listening to offers. But I'm going to tell you this. If they don't make this move, which I highly believe they're not going to pull the trigger and make a trade for Giannis until the offseason, it will be something like it's almost like a relationship with that girl that she wants to break up with you, but you just trying to hold on until hold on, maybe she'll change her mind. And clearly, ever since that thing happened down in Dallas with Nico Harrison, and once the Dallas Mavericks front office and their fan base took a massive hit and people and fans lashing out, you're not going to see this happen. Because if it's not a overhaul, a major haul, you're not going to be able to sell that to that fan base in Milwaukee. And it seems like they're getting cold feet. I wouldn't be surprised if this trade happens in the offseason where, again, it's not the season. Fans will be able to digest it, and it'd be over, said, and done with before September.
Yeah, but you know what? I look at the Milwaukee Bucks and go, okay. We hear the rumors and this is what helps us sell because we like to hear the rumors. But like you just said, are they going to trade him this year? Just depends on who's going to give him a good package. And a lot of teams are not willing to gut their team out just to get him, because Milwaukee's going to ask for a lot. I mean, I'm not mad at him. That's an MVP. If you want to try to win, then try to win. But I do look at what they did as far as the free agency market. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I ain't mad at guys getting their money. But you gave Miles Turner a lot of money, and I'm still waiting for him to get a rebound.
Yeah. I tell you this, make sure you subscribe to the show. Definitely here on the Bottom Line Sports Show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Keep up with us. And like I said before, I believe that trade is going to happen. But also the biggest one, I'll ask you plain and simple, Rick, is when you look at Ja Morant and Kyrie Irving. Ja Morant has been a name that's been bandied about. Now you have Jaren Jackson Jr. gone. You had Desmond Bane gone. Now Ja is pretty much there by himself. Is this a time where you look at Kyrie Irving, you're looking at this team and saying, hey, look, Kyrie's going to be coming back. You're going to be in a space now where it's a youth movement. They're turning the team over to Cooper Flag. Who do you think is moved first? Who'll be traded next? Is it Ja or Kyrie?
Well, I mean, Ja's name has always been circling around there, and a lot of people don't know. They know what Kyrie did before. This is what I'm saying. They want to see what he can do now. There's something, probably off-season trade or something like that, because, one thing, you want to win as a basketball player, NBA player, but sometimes you're looking at it, you calculating that money. And
Yeah.
you say, all right, well, I know I'm gonna get my butts kicked. You know, I remember going to the New Jersey Nets and back in the day, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get our butts kicked, but hey, check ain't late. Just depends.
Yeah, it definitely is that case there. And you know, I gotta have one of my soapbox.
Uh-oh. All right. Don't stand on that
No,
1-inch
no,
box.
no. Look, you know what? I gotta get up on that. Looking at an upcoming Paul Knepper, who did a phenomenal book on the late great Moses Malone. We'll be talking with him momentarily, and also going to get Super Bowl picks, whatever. But I tell you this, I've been looking at this landscape, and I was sitting there believing that LeBron James was going to the New York Knicks, a team that now, if you look at it, some questions. Yes, they've won 7 in a row. Oh, it's been amazing, right? It's been so amazing. But when you look at this team and you see the Detroit Pistons there, you look at the Boston Celtics, we thought that they were dead and gone. They have arisen. They're back. Get back. And now they've gotten stronger. And when I look at everything that happened, an interesting thing started playing out. And I looked at the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Mm-hmm.
And I had somebody in the NBA tell me this one time. He said, never let your emotions, your feelings get in the way of making your money. And I look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've cleared the cap space. They've moved different guys. And I'm going to tell you, this is a twofold part. And you can hear it right here on the Bottom Line Sports Show. Mark my words, and I'm telling you this.
Uh-oh.
LeBron James will return back to the Cleveland Cavaliers this offseason. He won't have to deal with the backlash of leaving the Lakers, all those things.
He's going home?
He's going home. And it will be something that's played out. The Cavs fans, they will welcome him. Management, the governor will welcome him back with open arms.
But they'll be over the cap.
No, not so fast. Not so fast. Because I'm going to tell you, and I've heard from some reliable sources within the NBA, Donovan Mitchell is going to leave the Cleveland Cavaliers. And from my understanding, he's going to a major market. And wherever he goes, what the difference is, leaving the money on the table, Adidas will pick up the additional money to have him out of there. With this being said, with him leaving, you will have James Harden and LeBron for the swan song in Cleveland, where all of their fans and stuff like that will be super satisfied. Make no mistake, this will be something.
All I care about is what Detroit's doing. I don't care what Cleveland, the land, or whatever they want to call themselves. That's on them.
I'm telling you that. Let's move forward right now. Our guest is joining us here on the Bottom Line Sports Show, gentlemen, and I really appreciate him. He's got his Go Big Blue, go blue, go blue. But he has an unbelievable book that's out now. It's coming out on the late, great Moses Malone. Mr. Paul Knepper joining us here on the Bottom Line Sports Show.
He didn't interview me.
I didn't. I know, Rick. I'm sorry, man.
I'm sorry. I think I did play in Virginia. I think it was, and I played with a guy that played with him in high school at Hampton. I guess I don't know Moses. I never talked to him.
Why you sitting up there, Paul? Thank you so much, and appreciate you reaching out and stuff and joining us. Paul, I got to ask you first and foremost, let's dive into the fact is why did you decide to do this book on an individual that I think really doesn't get his just due, is kind of forgotten, and that being the late, great Moses Malone?
Yeah, I mean, you just hit on it, Gerald. Nobody talks about him anymore. People talk about the greats of the game. Nobody talks about him anymore. There are only 8 people in NBA history to win 3 or more MVP awards. He's one of them. He's the greatest offensive rebounder of all time by a massive margin. He was the first modern guy to go straight from high school to the pros. So he's got a great story. There's a lot of stuff about that and the recruiting and all the backlash, all the haters when he decided to make that jump. So he's got a great story, and it bothers me as a fan of the history of the game that his name doesn't come up anymore. It's like some guys are, there are these narratives we have, as Magic and Larry came and saved the NBA, and then Michael came, and anybody else around that time or before then, were forgotten about sometimes, or we just pick and choose certain people to talk about. So I felt like Moses wasn't getting his just due, and I wanted to put his story out there.
Yeah,
You're right. You're right. Moses doesn't get his just due, because I remember them wars and all the stuff that guys used to tell me when I was at Hampton, how this kid just in Peter, as they say, Petersburg, Virginia, and I'm telling you. To me, when they asked me who's the greatest centers, or I said in no particular order. Of course, I've seen the Russells. A lot of people don't really, like you just said, Paul. They don't know that he was the first between him and Spencer Haywood. Spencer Haywood challenging the hardship rule, and also Moses leaving high school, going to play in the ABA, when the ABA, and a lot of people don't even remember the ABA.
Absolutely. There's a great it looks great. There's a documentary coming out. I think it's on Amazon this month about the ABA. That I know Doc was involved with that. So hopefully that'll open some people's eyes.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't even know where the 3-pointer came. It's like all of this just didn't come around the corner. And I always talk to the guys here in Detroit and young guys, and whenever I want to give them knowledge, I said, you got this book, you read this book. I got books over there that I read just so I can even get more history than I know. But when you look at a guy like Moses Malone and you talk about MVPs, what makes, from your standpoint, when you were writing this, getting your literature, why did people really just didn't really saw Moses as being that dominant force?
I mean, the thing that in talking to guys that played against him, the word that came up more than anything was relentless. He was relentless. I think it was Caldwell Jones said it was boxing out Moses was like trying to box out an octopus. But he was, obviously he was a quick jumper. He was physical. He was very strong. He'd battle you down there. But that, and even talking to some of his coaches, Del Harris, who coached him for a long time in Houston, he said to me, Paul, Moses just wanted the ball more than everyone else. And he just kept coming. And, like a lot of you played with an all-time great rebounder, Rick, Dennis Rodman in Detroit. But Dennis would get those rebounds. He had to kick it out, right? He couldn't finish after. Moses would get those rebounds, and he'd go right back up and get that and one in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And the book is called Moses Malone, The Life of a Basketball Prophet. Paul, one of the things that Rick and I have done so consistently is really try to merge and sort of pair the present with the future, but also connect the past, because a lot of people, like you allude to, they don't understand that basketball just didn't start with Michael Jordan or LeBron James and things of that nature, but there were great players. And it's interesting because like Rick talked about, Moses is really not even thought about in the conversation of great centers. And you talk about he's just so relentless and just being a guy that was a horse. And, look, him winning in Philly, that championship, do you think it hurt his legacy that he wasn't able to return to that team? Do you think his legacy would have been different if they would have had an opportunity to go back for a repeat with that team?
Yeah, I think so. I think that team in general kind of gets forgotten because they were an all-time great team, with Moses and Doc and Mo Cheeks and Bobby Jones are in the Hall of Fame. And Andrew Toney was probably on the way to a Hall of Fame career before he had the foot problems that destroyed his career. That was a stacked team. But I think because they were kind of a one-and-done champion, and they get overshadowed by, of course, it was Magic and Larry winning their championships. And then the Pistons came along and they won back-to-back. And so I think because it was only one, he gets a little overshadowed. Yeah.
A lot of times, and we're talking back in the late 70s, early 80s. Moses was one of those guys. I remember Wes Unseld would tell me, Well, as soon as he shoots the ball, he's going to go get it. And you're going to have to put like you said, Caldwell Jones said he was like an octopus. And I'm going to tell you right now, that dude, not only could he rebound, a lot of people don't, he could score. And I mean, it was like he would throw the ball up on the board to say, okay, that's one, I'm going to get 2 rebounds and then I'm going to score 2 points. I used to just shake my head. But, when you look at it, we look at the great centers from back then, the Bob Lanier's, the Artis Gilmores, the Jack Sigmas, and like you said, why does, for what he's done, his achievements, why, I'm just trying to figure out why people don't know him.
Yeah, it's a good question. I kind of dedicate the introduction of the book to that, because it's why isn't he talked about more? And I think there are a few reasons. I think part of it is there was no flash to Moses, right? He didn't soar through the air like Michael, or was a wizard with the ball like Magic or Isaiah.
With the hook shot.
Yeah.
Hook shot.
Yeah, but he wasn't, there was no flash. So I think that did stand out. I think it hurt him that he jumped around a bit. He kind of, Rick, you got a home in Detroit. I think great players, you kind of need a home, a city that really loves you and embraces you and celebrates you. And Moses, his jersey's retired in Houston and Philly. He's best known for Philly, but he was only there 4 years. So while he's loved in Philly, he's not loved and associated with that place the way that like Allen Iverson or Dr. JR, who played there for like a decade. And I think the last thing about is why Moses doesn't get talked about more is because I don't think Moses gave a damn about getting talked about. He just didn't. And we've seen other guys like that. Tim Duncan was like that. I think Jokic is kind of like that now. They don't no interest in being a celebrity, no interest in the fame. They just want to play ball. Yeah. And Moses was even, I talked to a lot of writers who covered him regularly. None of them really got to know him, and some of them disliked him. They thought he was rude. And I think that affected the way he was covered then and was talked about then. I think it affects the way he's covered now.
Yeah, people, people got into their feelings because all he wanted to do was play. And sometimes I know how he feels, because when people start fanning out, sometimes you get you don't want to hear that. You just want to just play your game. You want to enjoy yourself because it's a job. It's a job, but people come to support you and you want to give them some love, but some days you'd be like, man, what the fuck?
Yeah. Rick, did you ever play? You played against Moses, right? Obviously. Rick, did you ever do that? I wanted to ask you this. Did you ever get Moses with that pull the chair?
All the time. I would get, look, come on, man. Hey, listen.
I want to know. Did you ever get him with the pull the chair?
I got it on
all about his pull the chair move. That is classic, in which guys would post up and Rick would let them post and get position. And then all of a sudden, they get the ball. Rick would just step his leg back, and all of a sudden the travel would ensue. They'd fall, they'd turn over the ball. It was classic. And again, it's those little tricks to the trade. You got him all the time with that, Rick?
I would get, once I got one, they were just waiting to see when I go get the other one. When I look at it, I don't even look at it anymore, but I heard someone tell me Shaquille O'Neal is still kind of mad at me because I would wait for him to do that. I studied, and it's like, man, as soon as he does this, he'll go 1, 2, and then I know he'll come back to 1, and then I'll just move because he's going to 2. But when I look at Moses Malone, he's balanced. His equilibrium was great, because as soon as he shot the ball, he was already up going for the rebound. But shoot, the dude could get you 20 rebounds and 30 points in one night, and you go like, well, damn, that's a lot of work. So you always have my hands full with him and the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, and I went through a war. That's why I got a cane over here in the corner, Paul, and a massage chair.
No, but Paul, my question to you in regards to that, when you look at Moses and doing obviously the research and stuff, what was your biggest takeaway from knowing about and learning about a man that obviously we know him about what he's done on the court, and obviously He's well respected. But what were some of the things were like your biggest takeaway in doing this book that you learned about the late great Moses Malone?
Yeah, I mean, the most interesting stuff to me was Moses, the person. It was, as I said, the man behind the scowl, because he didn't show you any of that. He didn't engage. He didn't play the media game. So nobody really got to know who he was, and there were a lot of misconceptions about him. I think he was very misunderstood. I think even going back to him going straight from high school to pros, there was a perception that he wasn't intelligent. Moses had a bit of a speech impediment too, so I think people thought he was uneducated, unintelligent, that he was a grumpy guy, and all that was way off. You talk to teammates and to a man, everybody talks about how intelligent he was. And I always say, I don't care how talented you are, you got to have a really high basketball IQ to win 3 MVP awards, right? So just basketball, you got to be really intelligent, but off the court as well. And he was a prankster in the locker room. He played a lot of those, like juvenile locker room pranks, but loved by teammates, a mentor to many, most notably Charles Barkley and Hakeem Olajuwon are kind of the 2 biggest names. Charles Barkley, until the day Moses died, Charles Barkley called him Dad. And it wasn't all joking. That's how much he respected him. And Charles has said Moses is the person most responsible for his success in the NBA.
Wow.
Because he taught him how to work hard. And but those are big name guys, but he was a mentor to countless guys. And Muggsy Bogues went on and on about it when they were in with the Bullets together, how Moses really took him under his wing. Spud Webb, I guess he liked the little guys. But he was a mentor to a lot of players. And so that was the interesting stuff to me, to find out the teammate he was, the person he was, his intelligence, all that stuff.
Yeah. I remember being a ball boy, and I remember when the Sixers came in there, and it was either Sixers or he was playing. And I remember seeing him. He was sitting there. I think it might have been with the Bullets back then. And he tell you something, and he sounded just like somebody. He was like, and I was like, huh? He said, and I was so scared to ask him again. I just ran out of it because his face was serious. He was dripping sweat. And like you alluded to, it was no tricks, no gimmicks. Like Rick Mahorn would come to the games, and Rick take care of his business. But Rick knew how to turn it on and off. Rick would be in there and say, hey, go get me a hot dog.
Or, there you go. Hey, Paul, don't listen to any of that. He's still looking for his jacket.
Hey, but Rick can tell you something. But the thing about it was, I think Rick had me one time. Him and somebody else was going back and forth, arguing or whatever. But it was so fun. But just to see Moses, he kept it on when they got on that court. He sweat and everything, and it just really shows. Hakeem Olajuwon obviously will be forever attached to Moses, and you talk about his development, not to take anything away from him, but that was that prized pupil, that what he was able to do with Hakeem and see the evolution of his game is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sweating, man, Gerald, the only other person I've seen sweat like him, you know, is Patrick Ewing.
Oh my God.
Patrick was on that level with Moses, 2 all-time sweaters.
Yeah. But with
all y'all getting this, that's nasty.
Yeah. With all due respect, I'll put Patrick in that same category with Moses. I love Patrick, but Patrick wasn't like Moses and stuff like that. No, Moses was a different individual in how he played. Paul, the book is out. Where can people get this book, Moses Malone, The Life of a Basketball Prophet?
Yeah, it's in bookstores. It's on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, all the places you get books. Go check it out. Lots of good stuff in there. Great,
Gerald, you don't
great
know
stuff about
Olajuwon.
What were you gonna say? What were you gonna say, Rick?
I remember Olajuwon. Paul, you talk about. I remember. I got Olajuwon with that move, and he's like, he gets up and with his proper accent, you'll never get me with that move again. I'm sitting there going like, I said, I'm sitting there going like, okay, whatever. But I said that dream shake, and then he got me. I made him fall, and then he came back the next time, and he said, sorry, did I shake you? I'm sitting there going like, he sounded like James Bond out there talking. Sorry, did I shake you? Like, but no, You're right, Moses. I mean, when his passing, and if Barkley learned anything from it, he damn sure didn't bring. When I went to Philadelphia, that hard work. He was waiting, telling Jimmy Lynam, "You want it on Jimmy? Do you want it in practice or do you want it in the game?" And Jimmy Lynam would sit there and said, I want it in practice, and I want it in the game." But I'll tell you, Moses has been missed, and just to hear. Used to have conversations with him myself, like Gerald said, with his gravelly voice. I'm sitting there, okay, yep, Moses, I would agree with you and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, it's always good, man. And like I alluded to earlier, Paul, Rick and I always try to, still connect with the players of yesteryear to let people know that they, their impact on the game, even though it's different and stuff like that, but they paved the way. And it really, really irks me and bothers me that we don't acknowledge these greats and stuff and make sure that we continue to keep them at the forefront. So I salute you and applaud you, for the fact is being able to do this phenomenal book. I can't wait to read it. I appreciate you reaching out constantly. You consistently try to make sure we make this work. I know you just finished this, but after working on this type of a project and stuff, what are your goals set forward moving forward? Is it going to stay in that space of the great players and stuff like that? Or
you're gonna write a book about me, Gerald?
Well, you know what? You should.
Rick, he said great players.
Hey, I almost saluted you. I almost saluted you.
But what's next with this book, and obviously what you can see perhaps on the horizon for yourself?
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with the next topic for sure. But yeah, I love writing about basketball, so I definitely foresee another basketball book in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you should call me. I got a few ideas for you.
All right, let's do it.
Because I mean, we know this is Black History Month, and a lot of times, people forget, and the way small schools now, especially Division II Black colleges, are going to suffer with this NIL stuff, and they basically everybody's pillaging everybody in this thing. So that's something that if you do, that's what I would look at. I mean, that's one thing that I look at, because how do smaller schools supposed to survive?
But also I want to piggyback on that. Rick Mahorn, obviously, when you talk about people where I don't, obviously people would say characters, whatever, but you know what? Rick Mahorn, obviously his impact, and this is something that he's never told me this, but I heard from somebody within the NBA, not going to call any names out, that said essentially Rick Mahorn is essentially responsible for that bad boys persona and all of those things which he brought to that team that was mimicked and implemented by guys like Dennis Rodman and all that, and that toughness. And even to the fact that they brought up, unfortunately, when Karl Malone hit Isaiah Thomas, and actually the only person that came to Isaiah's defense was Darryl Walker, and all the other players, again, these so-called tough guys that when Rick was there, everybody was throwing haymakers and stuff like that because they had Rick there. But his impact on that franchise, which helped them stay afloat and continue to take on that image, and was not a one-hit wonder, and ultimately led to, obviously, 2 championships. But that was something that often is kind of overlooked in terms of his impact with that bad boy persona, which was really a mindset that helped change the course for the Detroit Pistons.
Well, thank you, Gerald.
Absolutely, I agree completely. And to build on that, I wrote my first book was about the Knicks of the '90s, and when Pat Riley got to New York, he thought, because the Pistons kicked his ass in LA at the end, he thought he needed a big tough squad, and he kind of built that, that Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason team was very much built in the image of those Detroit Bad Boys teams, that we're going to be a tough, physical, defensive team. We're going to we're going to beat you up and push you around and all that. So Rick's influence did what went beyond the Pistons. It was a big part of the game for a long time.
It's funny, and nobody really knows this, but when I went overseas for like that for the second year. The Knicks they wanted to bring me back to Detroit. I mean, back overseas. I opted to go with the Nets at that time because Chuck Daly was there. Because I'm familiar with Chuck Daly, but Pat Riley, who was Dave Checketts was the president,
Yep.
wasn't? I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
getting and I was getting phone calls from both of them because they wanted me to be there. And Paul, you talk about the Oakleys and you talk about the Anthony Masons. Look, they came from Division II school, black colleges as well. So it's like, okay, between I look at a Al
Yeah.
Adams, I look at a Willis Reed, it's a lot of historically black college players that played the Earl of Pearl Monroe who would kick your ass in a minute. And you go
Yeah.
like, damn, man, I ain't messing with him because they know where they from.
Yeah. Ben Wallace.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So-
Wallace, a bunch of guys and stuff like that. Definitely got to make sure to connect you guys there. I'll tell you real quickly before we let you get on out of here, Paul. I remember I was able to get my hands on, I guess it's a book that Pat Riley had for his players. And inside this book, it told you all the fines that you would accrue if you did certain things. So he had a fine. I think it was either 10,000 or 15,000 if you actually hit a player from the opposing team that went down and you helped
them up.
Yeah, you helped them up. I think it was some with the clock if you were late, something with a clock, all types of things, incidentals. He was so meticulous in terms of really trying to change that culture of the New York Knicks, but really instilling that sort of us against the world mindset. It's just unfortunate that it didn't transpire that well in New York, which led to an ultimate championship, which he had down in Miami with that kind of same, bravado in terms of just the physicality. You couldn't pick a player up. And I thought that was just the weirdest thing. Like,
you gotta have talent to win, Gerald.
You do. But the interesting thing is when games are over, the series is over. You're shaking guys' hand, you're hugging and all this other stuff. But he was penalizing guys during the course of the game.
Well,
again,
he would have really penalized me then because I would have been. I mean, when we would play New York, I'd have been with one of my boys that was on the team. But when 48 minutes came, I was going to kick their ass. I don't care. And when I came back to Detroit, we had the Malice at the Palace. I didn't give a shit. They had the other uniform on.
Paul, really appreciate the time. And once
Thanks,
again,
Paul.
I'm going to definitely connect you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And definitely stay consistent. All the best. Definitely keep us in mind. Definitely let's stay in contact. Obviously, any other future projects. And definitely congratulations on this. I'm excited to read it because, again, it's something that is definitely well needed.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Blessings to you, man.
Most
Stay
of
safe
all,
out there.
The Life of a Basketball Prophet. It's out now on all the major bookstore outlets, Amazon. Check it out. If you're a basketball fan and even a basketball historian, this is a must read. You do not want to miss out on this individual.
One of the greatest, I tell you that much.
Definitely, hands down. Paul, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Paul Canepa joining us here. So, Rick, before we get on out of here, man, let's switch over to the Super Bowl. And I got to ask you, first and foremost, your thoughts on this whole situation with your beloved New England Patriots. And you look at the New England Patriots and you look at them and seeing that the head coach, one is the greatest of all time, Bill Belichick, not being nominated as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Then you turn around and you have a situation where you have Robert Kraft, the owner for the team, turn around. He's denied first ballot Hall of Fame status.
Hey, all I know is somebody been drinking a lot of haterade because, you win 6 of them, something's happening. I don't know, Gerald. I don't know the voting process. I don't know, I don't know who votes or whatever. But hey, they don't. When you kick enough ass as much as they have, they know they'll be in the Hall of Fame eventually.
Yeah, but I'll ask you this: Do you think Tom Brady is next? Or do you think he escapes it because of what he did in Tampa for my beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning NFL Super Bowl
I
championship?
mean, would he be a first ballot Hall of Famer? I believe so. He's done amazing things, but it's all about people's preference, man. It's all about who are on the voting, and if they don't like you, they won't give you a vote or whatever. But then they'll wait till the next year just so they can say, I did it, I did it. I don't care.
Yeah, but
But
I think that was obviously a payback for the Spygate. That was a payback, and Brady's a part of that. So if they didn't get in, you don't think Brady gets in on the first ballot? I mean, he did win a championship with one of the
he's got
greatest.
7 of them, Gerald. If they do that to them, if they do that to him, it's always going to be something, man. I don't get into the political side of things of who likes what, who's their preference. That's what they get paid to do, or whatever that's what they're obligated to do. I look at it, is he a first ballot Hall? Yes. And I look at Bill Belichick, yes, and I look at Robert Kraft, yes. So I mean, it gets to the point where some people have an attitude problem about a lot of things, man. I don't get into that. And then when I'm looking at waiting for this game and getting my popcorn and my chicken wings ready, I'm just excited that the team that's in there, like the New England Patriots, nobody had them there. They had the Buffaloes. They had the teams that they go, okay, Bo Nix got hurt. That's why y'all there. Hey, this is football. I don't give a damn. It's still the same. When it goes down, they ain't gonna say this person got hurt because he wasn't there. That's why they won. Want to hear that crap?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's just talk about the Super Bowl. Obviously, you're a Patriots fan. You got to be feeling real great. I don't expect you to pick against your Patriots. What will be the key for the Patriots to win the Super Bowl?
Trying to get through that defense. Seattle has the best defense in the league. It's just trying to, we won a game, to get to the Super Bowl, but it was only by, 3 points. It was a struggle. We're going to have a good running game and making sure that Drake May can can move the ball down the field. That's what it is. It's going to be about trying to score, but that's a tough defense. And so, of course, the odds makers and the bettors out there, they have Seattle winning it, but they ain't played a game yet.
Yeah, I think they played the game. I think this game comes down, in my humble opinion, is going to be based upon which team's offensive line can be successful against that defense. If it's the New England Patriots, their offensive line is going to be able to give Drake May enough time to be able to throw the ball and open up holes to establish that run game. If it's the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks, we're going to see guys like Kenneth Walker be able to excel. You're going to see Sam Darnold be in a place and be able to find Jackson and Jigba to be able to find him to be successful. So I think this game comes down to plain and simple, which team's offensive line is able to neutralize that defense. That's what it comes down to. Rick, it's been great, man. Let's get on out of here. Listen, you guys are in Toronto next week. We're going to have, obviously, a lot of the Super Bowl talk with a lot of participants and individuals that are currently at the Super Bowl. Definitely appreciate the time.
We'll also be doing the NBA All-Star game, the
2 weeks.
And we'll be getting ready for that. So, I'm looking forward to it.
We'll definitely be getting ready for it. Rick, as always, man, appreciate you. For Rick Mahorn, I'm Gerald Brown. What do we say, Rick?
Peace.